Good. Rabbi said, welcome back to Yerushalmi Yoma. We're practically Halacha Vav, which is on page Chaf Amud Beis, towards the end there, right? So we're continuing with the Avodah of Yom Kippur. Now, after you've done the Avodah, which is done every day in the morning, the Kohen Gadol goes in the mikveh, and now he's going to do the unique Avodah, which is relevant to Yom Kippur. Okay? So let's make a start with this. Heviyuhu, the Beis HaParva. They bring him to Beis HaParva. Remember we spoke about the Parva yesterday, where there's a magician who was found, or whatever it was. So we bring him to this room, where on the roof is the mikveh that Kohen Gadol goes in. About Kodesh Haisa. It was in a holy area, in the Azara. Parasu Sadin Shalbutz. They put a linen cloth between him and the people. There's a curtain. Kiddush Yadav Araglav. He washes his hands and his feet from the golden jug, not the kiyah, the golden jug which they use. Or Pashat, and he takes off his golden clothes. Rav Meir says Pashat, he took off the golden clothes, and afterwards Kiddush Yadav Araglav, he washes his hands and his feet. Yarad, he goes down in the mikveh b'taval, but Alav and his tapik, he comes up and he dries himself. Heviula big day Alavam, they now bring him the white clothes for the avodah, which is meyuchad for Yom Kippur. The lavash, and he wears the clothes for Kiddush Yadav Araglav. Again, he washes his hands and feet from the jug of the gold jug. Ba'ashacha, in the morning of Yom Kippur, when he wears the white clothes the first time, hayalovesh pilusin, he would wear clothes of linen, which were important clothes, good quality, coming from the land of Pelusia, which Pelusia, do we know where it is? Some say it's the land of Ramses in Egypt.
In Egypt, yeah.
Some say we're talking about all the four begadim. The four begadim were made of linen, of white. The white clothes made of linen. The Rambam's Mochach, this is a kasones. We're not talking about the other begadim. Okay, fine. Shel Shnei Masar Maneh. Now the value of it was 12 maneh, which is 1,200 zuz. Ben Abayim, and when he wears the white clothes later on, and he's coming back to the Holy of Holies to take out the spoon and the shovel, then Hindavan, they had the Indian clothes, which are made of linen, comes from India. Shel Shmoina Me'azuz, which were worth 800 zuz. Dever of Meir, that's the view of Rameir. But Chacham said, in the morning, he wore clothes from Pelusia, Shel Shmoina Asar Maneh, of 800 maneh, of Ein Abayim, Shel Shnei Masar Maneh, and so 1800. So 1800 in the morning, and in the afternoon, 1200. So there's different figures as to how much they were worth, different opinions how they were worth. Hakol, now the white clothes he wore in the morning and the ones that he wore in the afternoon, the together is Shloshim Maneh, is 3,000 zuz. Elu Nota Mina Hegdish. This money you could use from Hegdish for buying these clothes. In Ratzah Lahaisif, if he wants to add a bit of money of his own, Moisif Mishalah, he's allowed to add on a bit of his own. Okay, is that heater on?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. Right. So, we've learned that the Kohen Gadol would wash his hands and feet twice when he's swapping between the gold clothes and the white clothes. So, according to the first opinion, the first washing was done when he's still wearing the clothes. He's about to take off. According to Rameir, it's done after he's taken off the clothes. So, what's the source according to Rameir? Ma'atamad Rameir. What's the reason Rameir that the Kohen Gadol takes off first the clothes and then he washes his hands and feet? He learns it from what's written. He says, Pasha, first, from the Seder of Masim was written. So first you take off Pasha, he takes off his clothes, the Kiddush, he washes, but Rachas, and then he goes in the mikveh, and then Kiddush, then he washes his hands again, and then he wears the new clothes. Ma'atamad Rabbanan. What's the reason for Rabbanan that you're Mekadosh Yadav Araglav before he takes off his clothes? Then like this, look, it says, Pasha, you take off the clothes, but Lavash, and you put them on. Hikish Vashita Levisha. We compare taking them off to putting them on. Malavisha, just like when you put them on. Mekadesh, you are Mekadesh Yadav Araglav when you are dressed. Afshita, so also when you're taking them off, Mekadesh, you wash your hands and feet when you are dressed, right, before you take the clothes off. Okay? Now, the source of Rameir is from the order in the Psukim. That it comes out, it's like take them off, then wash, then mikveh, and then wash. So l'chaira, the second washing is done straight after mikveh before you put the new clothes on. So I'm Rav Mana Kumi reviews and Adate de Rameir. According to, are you going to tell me according to Rameir, Rechitza that there's going in the mikveh chaytzet says is between the two washings. then you're like washing your hands and feet twice, one after the other. If you just got a mikveh in between, then it's as if like one. And then that can't be. So he said, Misbah Sabo, do you honestly think that it's Adr Meir, that the order is according to Meir, Pashat, you take off the clothes and then you wash, and then you go in the mikveh, Barachas, Kiddush, then you wash it again, and after that you wear the new clothes? It's not so, ain't okay. Ella, the order according to Meir is Pashat, you take the clothes off, Kiddush, you wash your hands and legs, Barachas, you go in the mikveh, Lavash, you put the new clothes on, Kiddush, and then you wash your hands and legs. So according to Meir, the second washing is done after wearing the new clothes, not straight after the mikveh. Otherwise, it's right next to the other washing. Now, we bring Machlokes Amoraim about the two washings which the Kohen Gadol does each time when he changes his clothes. Shmuel Amar, Achas B'shayt, Achas Lavush, between whether it's the washing done when you're taking off the clothes, or the washing done when you're putting on the new clothes, Shtei Laba, both are done for the new clothes which you're wearing now. So even the washing that you do when you're taking off the previous clothes is not done for the honor of the clothes you're taking off. It's a preparation for the new clothes you're going to put on. He said, one of the washings is done for the clothes you're going to wear now, and one is done for the clothes that you wore until now. And both the washings are done lavush when the Kohen Gadol is dressed. The first one before he takes his clothes off, and the second one after he puts the new clothes on. And that's like the view of the Chachamim. Okay? So the Machlokes Shmuel and Bar Kapara is according to the Chachamim. The first washing is done before you take the previous clothes off. Shmuel holds, although the first washing is done before you take the previous clothes off, but really it's for the new clothes you're going to put on. Whereas Bar Kapara holds, the first washing is done according to the Chachamim before you take the clothes off. It's for the sake of these clothes which you're wearing now. Okay? There is a nafka mina between Shmuel and Bar Kapara. If the Kohen Gadol washed his hands after finishing one of the avodas, and then he died, right? He died before he did the second washing, and they appointed another Kohen to finish the avodah. According to Bar Kapara, the first washing is for the previous clothes. So the Kohen Gadol who died, he kept that obligation. And the new Kohen can start from the second washing on wearing the new clothes. Whereas according to Shmuel, the first washing is also for the next avodah, for the new clothes. So the new Kohen who's taking over has to wash the first washing again for the new clothes that he's putting on. Okay, that's the Sefer Nir says that. Let's carry on. Rav Yochanan said, I can't believe it. Well, everyone agrees. The Kiddush Harishon, the first washing of the day, that's for the sake of the clothes you're going to wear. He's not done any work yet. Just now he's going into the Azara. Rav Yochanan, I can't mind him the Kiddush Rishon, and everyone agrees with the first washing of the day, Shehu Ma'akev, that is essential for the Avodah. If you don't do it, then the Avodah is possible. It's no good. Ma'atav, what's the source of Rav Yochanan for this? It says with the kiyah, right, they have to wash their hands. So Chak Olam tells me the washing of the Kohen before the Avodah is essential for the Avodah. Now, Machlokes Shmuel and Bar Kapara about the last washing of the day. Rav Yochanan, I can't bite it. Now, everyone agrees, but Kiddush HaAchron, the last washing of the day, which the Kohen Gadol does after all the Avodah, Shehu L'She'ava, that is for the clothes you have been wearing until now, right? It's not for his own personal clothes you're going to put on to go home, right? Right. Rav Yosa, Masnisa Amra Kain. Yeah, we see this Lamais in the Mishnah. The Mishnah says after the last washing, they bring his own clothes, Velavash, he wears them. Yes, you're going to wash your hands and feet, put on your normal weekday clothes? Definitely not, your own personal clothes. So you see, definitely the last washing was for the sake of the clothes you had been wearing, not for the clothes you're going to put on. Now, we said the first washing is essential for the Avodah. Now, what about the other washings which are done during the day? Are they essential? Rabbi Yochanan said, wearing the big day Kohen on Yom Kippur, the Pasuk says, Ulevesham, he wears them. It tells me that wearing the clothes are essential for the Avodah. So Levisha Ma'akevis, the wearing of the clothes is essential. Ben Kiddush Yadayim Raglayim, ma'akev. But the washing during the day is not essential. Now we can also say things similar to wearing clothes which are not essential. So let's say levisha, wearing clothes is essential, ma'akeves. Ben kiddush yadayim raglayim ma'akev. But the washing at the time when you change clothes, that's not essential. But the one at the beginning of the day is not like the same as changing clothes between avoda and avoda. So we don't learn from that drasha that's not ma'akev. That one definitely is ma'akev. Yeah. Okay, now we talk about the Big Day Kahuna the rest of the year. We're going to bring a brisa. Now, how are they made? So how are the clothes of the Kohen made? Now it says, Bad, made of linen. Shu kafulim, that each Kohen should have 2 of them. The Kamine, that's the Kesenes, right? Kamine de like Rabbi Yosef, not like the view of Rabbi Yosef. Let's just see here. It says here, some say it's talking about making the clothes from a double thread. That's the way the Babli explains the brisa, right? You can have a double thread. This is Big Day Hediot. Lavash HaKohen Midai Bad, Mechnas Day Bad. And the Big Day Lavan of Yom Kippur also saying as Bad Kodesh Yobash. Okay, so now, the Kamin is like Rabbi Yosef. Rav Shmuel Rav Yitzchak, like Nachas the Beis Bada. He didn't go to the Beis Medrash one day. After that, come Im Rav Zira. You saw Rav Zira. What was new in the Beis Medrash this day? Amalei says we learned the brisa that Bad Shu Kufulim, that each Kohen should have these 2 clothes. We fitted it in to like Rabbi Yosef, not like Rabbi Yosef, who we brought earlier on. Because we brought Rabbi Yosef. Where did we bring Rabbi Yosef? Rabbi Yosef Masisa Amra came, right. That's to do with the washing. The Kiddush is L'Sha'ava. Alright. Now.
Did they really have a restriction on the changes they had?
Oh, yeah. Like Rabbi Yosef. Now, let's see. Why is this not like Rabbi Yosef? We're going to see now. So, Tony, we learned another brisa. It says, Live now Aaron Tasu Katanis. For the sons of Aaron, you make them these shirts. Rabbanan Amre, they said, each one needs to have 2. Rabbi Yosef, he says, no. I feel one for each day. We eat one for each person. So the previous price says you have to make 2. That's not like Rabbi Yosef. Ma Tamid Rabbanon. What's the reason for Chachamim? So Aaron Tasu Katanis. Yeah, we can learn. Yeah, you have to make 2 for each Kohen. Ma Tamid Rabbi Yosef. What's Rabbi Yosef's view? He says, no. For all the children of Aaron, you make them. Doesn't mean Kutalas you need to have 2 for each one. You make a lot for all the children. So for each Kohen is enough. You only need 1. You might have to wash it every now and again, but you only need 1. You don't need 2. You don't want 2 Kohanim to use the same one. Now, but Shiur Chadashim, and they should be newish. You're going to tell me you can't wear old clothes. But Tani, but it says about the Big Day Cohen elevation, even the older clothes are fitting. Rav Hanani of Hashem Rabbi Yosef, what the brisa means, it means they need to be made initially for the sake of Big Day Kohuna. Don't buy clothes, right, made for ordinary things and make them into Big Day Kohuna. K'machlokas, this is a machlokes in another brisa. You take a skin of an animal and you made a cloth, l'shem kamea, for the sake of an amulet. You're allowed to write mezuzah. Mezuzah doesn't need ibud l'shem mitzvahs mezuzah. You don't need the tanning for the sake of the mezuzah. Shimon Gamliel he forbids it. He said the cloth of mezuzah you need ibud l'shma. Right now, the previous brisa said the Big Day Kohuna have to be made for the sake of Big Day Kohuna, and that's like Shimon Gamliel, that the cloth, the parchment of mezuzah, has to be made for the sake of mezuzah. But the Chachamim argue on Shimon Gamliel as mezuzah, and they also say Big Day Kohuna don't need to be made for Big Day Kohuna. Now, is it the same machlokes what's in the brisa with Big Day Kohuna? Is that the same as the question with mezuzah or not? Oh, Rabbi Yosef, we wanted to say ma'apligin. What's the argument between Gamliel and Chachamim? If you need to make asir lishma, the thing, that's as very well with mitzvah things, which are the hediot, which are used for a person, like a mezuzah. The things for heavenly purposes, there's no argument. Could be everyone holds they need to be lishma, right? It's heavenly things. Things for Sachay Mikdash, Could be everyone holds it needs to be made lishma. Now, we wanted to say there's a difference between chefsei mitzvah, which is for a hediyot, and things for heavenly things. And it could be the price of the big day kahuna needs to be new for the sake of big day kahuna. It could be everyone holds of that. It's like heavenly things. Rabbi Yosef changed his mind because of Hanania, B'Shem Rabbi Yosef on this price. Now we've learned in a price that Abnei Kodesh, the stones of the Mizbeach, you have to carve them out for the sake of the big Beis Mikdash. Of our Kodesh Yechatzvu, and all the actions to do with it is done Hashem Kodesh. And Big Day Kodesh, the clothes of the Kohuna, Zashatei Arigasan Kodesh, they have to be woven for the sake of Big Day Kohuna. Of our Kodesh Yagod, in an area, all the actions have to be done for the sake of Big Day Kodesh. And Hanani Hashem Rabbi Yasa, he said Machlekesi. It's Machlekes. This price is like Hashem Gamliel, who holds even mezuzah needs to be lishma, carving out the stone. Weaving the clothes and material has to be lishma, but that is Rav Shimon ben Gamliel. But according to the Chachamim, they argue with mezuzah. They will argue with the stones of the Beis Mikdash. They will argue Big Day Kohuna. Adar Amra, this tells me after Gavaya Pligin, even things for the sake of the Mikdash, there's Machlekes Tanaim, it has to be lishma. So the price of the Big Day Kohuna have to be chadoshim. That's made for the sake of Big Day Kohuna. That's only Rav Shimon ben Gamliel's opinion, and it's not the view of the Chachamim. Now we bring a source to Rav Hanania in the name of Rav Yasa. The Machlekes Tanaim with Asir Lishma is also with things used for the Mikdash. The tiny learns in the bright, so basically the Gavaya, you make a keli for the base Mikdash, Ajala Nishtamish by Gavaya, it's not yet been used. Mutin Nishtamish by Hedi, anyone can use it. Mishin Nishtamish by Gavaya, once Hekdash have used it, after Nishtamish by Hedi, no one else can use it for their personal thing. Well, Tani, we will learn the other way around. Basically, Gavaya, you make a kli for the sake of heavenly use. Even though it's not been used, you still can't use it. He says machlokes in the brises. Machlokes is machlokes between two other brises. There's only learned in one brisa. You make a keli just for your own purposes. You've not used it yet. You can use it for heavenly things. Once you use it for your own thing, don't use it for heavenly things. But Tani, we learned another brisa the other way around. You make it for yourself, even though you've not yet used it. Do not use it for heavenly things. And he says, machlokes between the two brises, the first brise is about a kli for Shem Gavaya, and machlokes between the two brises about a kli made for a hediyot, is one argument. It's the same argument between Chachamim and Shem Gamliel. So according to Chachamim, you got it? According to Chachamim, heavenly things don't need to be lishma. So a keli made for yourself, you can use it for Gavaya, for heavenly things, as long as you've not actually used it. You didn't use it for yourself, you can use it for Gavaya. Making a keli l'shem Gavaya doesn't forbid you using it. Whereas from Shem Gamliel holds, it needs to be lishma. If it's made for you, it's possible for the Beis Mikdash. And a keli made for the Beis Mikdash, you can't use it. Now I bring another opinion about these two brises about a keli made for the sake of an ordinary person. Tiftar, it could be the first price is where you made a keli for the sake of an ordinary person, but you used hekdesh money. You hear that? You used hekdesh money, but you made it for an ordinary person. Shabbat mit Trumas Halishka, which came from the Trumas Halishka in the Beis Mikdash. So the price says, although keli is done for the sake of a hediyot, you can use it legavaya, because you basically the money, it was made from money of hekdesh. So you can't learn anything from this brisa if a keli of the Beis Mikdash needs to be done for the sake of l'shem gavaya. It could be a keli which is made with hekdesh money. Even if you made it for the sake of a hediyot, it's still considered made for hekdesh. Yeah, you used hekdesh money to make it, and therefore it's kosher for heavenly use. Whereas a keli which is made from hediyot money, from ordinary money, for the sake of an ordinary person, you can't use that for heavenly things. You follow? So it depends what money was used to make it. And a hekdesh keli used from hekdesh money can still be used for hekdesh. Okay. Kli shores. A kli shores, a vessel in the Beis Mikdash. How does it become holy? Me'ema zayin kedeshin. Is it miyad? Is it as soon as you designate it for the Beis Mikdash, you call it out? Or maybe b'shas tashmish, when you first made it? In Tema, you're going to tell me miyad, soon as you dedicate it with your mouth, nicha. I understand. Why? I mean, it's already holy before the avodah. You do avodah, you're mekadesh what's given in, what's put inside. But in Tema, you're going to tell me b'shas tashmish when you first use it. So when you first use it, it becomes holy at the same time as it's first used. How does that work? How can you tell me a kli sharis becomes holy in itself and it's magdish what's inside at the same time? Usually, something which is there to be brought, but you put something inside a kli sharis. The guf of the keli is mekadesh what's inside. When you start working with a new keli, the keli itself is becoming holy through avodah. But avodah depends, the kedusha is what's inside it. So kedusha keli and the kedusha of what's inside surely depend one on the other, and it's happening on both at the same time. Yeah, that's what he's saying. Ka'achas and kedusha is a top question. So he's saying it happens at the same time. Now it's all very well. Moshe, I understand Moshe's kelim, I get it, in the Mishkan. Remember, they were anointed with oil, etc. Yeah? Baram, however, Shel Shlomo, now the Kli HaShois of the base Mikdash Shlomo Melech, they were not anointed. Ka'achas hein kadeshim miskadrin. So, it's a question. Are you going to tell me that they become holy and then Mekadesh what's inside at the same time? So Gemara explains, you know how Shlomo Melech's kelim became holy? Because Knisasa la'aretz, when the Jewish people came in the land after Moshe Rabbeinu, they were Mekadesh Kli Sharis, this is what they used to do. They mefanin. They would pour things which needed offering, like blood of kodshim, Mitar Shel Moshe, from Moshe's kelim, which were anointed, Mitar Shel Shlomo, into the new kelim that they had. You hear that? So Shlomo Melech's Beis Hamikdash, which was, say, 300 years later, they poured into their kelim from Moshe Rabbeinu's kelim from the Mishkan 300 years earlier. Now you're going to tell me, was there anything left over 300 years later? He says, Lo Hashem, Moshe. What if there was nothing left? You're pouring from Moshe Rabbeinu's keli into King Solomon's keli 300 years later. Was there anything left? Then what do? How would you make the kelim holy if there's nothing left? Then you have to say they became holy with what was put inside at the same time. When they went from Babel to Eretz Yisrael, when they built the second temple, again they would get things ready for offering, like the blood of kodshim. They would pour it from Shlomo Melech's kelim, which were holy from the first temple, to their new kelim for the second temple. Now again, if there was nothing left from Shlomo Melech, from the first temple, when they're building the second, how are they mekadesh the Kli Sharis? He says, you have to say that they became holy and they were mekadesh what was inside at the same time. Okay.
What do
you mean, child? That's what we are saying. I mean, we are saying as you put something inside it, it's mekadesh what's inside it. I think the Bavli's got a different answer. Your mekadesh keli, usually you pour something in from another keli. If there's nothing else, then it's mekadesh through the avodah, and you put blood in. As mekadesh what's inside it. Shas avodah. Actually, it's like the Bavli. He says you need it. Shas avodah, it can become holy. That's the view of the Bavli as well. Okay. Right. Let's carry on. Avonim shechazvan l'shem mace. So now you've taken stone and you've carved out this stone for the sake of building a grave for someone who's died. Asurin b'hanoya. Once you've designated it for a dead person, you cannot get benefit, even though that you didn't do any shimush for the mace. However, even though you haven't used it yet, if, however, l'shem chayil l'shem mace, if you carve the stone for the living and for the dead, to build a grave to bury now someone who's already dead, and also to bury someone in the future who's still alive, mutarin b'hanoya, then you're allowed to get benefit. Okay, so So things for the sake of someone who's living for when he will die, and not also bana, right? Okay. So someone throws a vessel before the dead out of his pain. He wants to forbid a garment through benefit. He's designating it to be buried with the dead. If the garment falls within 4 amas around the mace, you can't get benefit. If it's beyond 4 amas, then mutabana, then you're allowed to get benefit. Right? So 4 amas next to the mace is considered the place of the mace. So it's if it's on the mace itself. Why isn't it forbidden when it falls beyond 4 amas? I mean, you throw a garment, you're designating for the mace. You should forbid it through designation. The Bavli brings a brisa that throwing garments, they're only also if they actually touch the mace, touch the coffin. But then we'll ask, why not the designating for mace? That should be Azmana Milsa. The Gemara says no. The Avelim throw the garments out of bitterness. It's not a proper designation for a mace, which would forbid them. But the clothes which touch the coffin are Osmid Rabbanan, that where someone will think, these garments, they're Tachrichin. And if they'd be permitted to get benefit, you might think Tachrichin are permitted to get benefit. So they're burial garments. They're considered burial garments. Okay. Now, the number of going in the mikveh and Kiddush and V'dayim Raglayim. It comes out. So 5 mikvahs and 10 washing hands and feet on that day. Now, 5 mikvahs, 10 kiddushim. Okay. How do we know the 2 washing of hands and legs at every mikvah? Talmud Laima, that's why it says, Pashat, V'rachatz, he takes off, he washes, V'rachatz, V'lavash, and then he wears. V'rachatz is between the taking off and putting on. So there's a din washing between the taking off and a washing for putting on, as if it's written twice. It doesn't mean proper washing the mikvah, it means washing hands and feet. We should have a kavachomer. In a place where you don't need the mikvah minat Torah, that's going in the Azara the rest of the year. We're going to the Azara for the Avodah the rest of the year. You don't need the mikvah, yet you need Tan Kiddush Yadayim Raglayim. You need to wash your hands and feet. Here, changing clothes, the Kohen Gadol Yom Kippur Shutan Tzvila needs mikvah. How much more does he have to wash his hands and feet? So every time the Kohen Gadol is going to the mikvah, he has to wash his hands and feet. So wait a minute, you're going too far. You're going to go from where you're learning it from. You want to look elsewhere and learn from there. Well, the washing of the Kohen Gadol is enough. Once a day, achas kol yom, afkan. So here as well, let's say achas, 1 tevila, which you do kol hayom. Or 1 kiddush, 1 washing your hands and feet, once for the whole day. How do you know there's 2 for every mikveh? Talmud Laima, that's why it says a pasha's big bad. He takes off the linen clothes which he wore. Talmud Laima, I didn't need it. He says he takes off the clothes which he wore. Well, of course he wore them. What other clothes is he going to take off? Asher lavash. Why do you have to say asher lavash? You honestly think what else can he take off if he's not worn it? To compare taking off to putting on. Taking, just like putting on is with washing hands and feet. We've got a kavachomer you need to wash after every tefillah, and that is at the time wearing the clothes after tefillah. Avshita, so taking off the clothes, kiddush yadayim raglayim, is also washing your hands and feet. So every tefillah needs 2 washings. Amar Rabbana said, Lai mistabra, this drash is lechilufin. Maybe it's the other way around. Let's learn the chiyuv kiddush yadayim raglayim at the time of taking off the clothes, and then we'll dash and hikish levisha levshita. We'll wear the wearing. We'll dash in the wearing from the taking off. Mavshita kiddush yadayim raglayim. You take it off, you wash your hands and feet. Av levisha, so when you put it on, you kiddush yadayim raglayim. So let's learn it the other way around. Now, the clothes of the Kohen Gadol, the white clothes, are better quality than the ones he wears in the afternoon. Rabbeah says in the morning there are 12 moneh, and in the evening there are 8 moneh, 800 zuz, yeah? Now, Ein sheni shel plusin. Now, the plusin material, second grade, is not so good. But so in the morning he had plusin material, and in the afternoon he had Hindu, the Indian material. Yeah. Now, surely the second quality of pilusin is better than the Indian one. So ein sheni shel pilusin yavmin rishon shel Hindu. So why are we going to the Indian one in the afternoon? Why dafka the Indian one? I mean, you could wear a second quality pilusin one in the afternoon, right? And they're better than the Indian one. So he says, Punta Meir, you're right. You could wear pilusin second class. But the mission says he wore the Indian one, b'shem mila d'shome prute, because something which is learned beferush, that you can wear the Hindu one in the afternoon. It was like learnt clearly. And therefore you can definitely wear pilusin as well. Second quality pilusin you can definitely wear. Taramantanina. Elsewhere we have learned with the various degrees in purity of olives. Remember there was the first press, second press, third press. Yeah. Kasis le menachas, kasis le menarav, like kasis le menachas. Menachas could have a worse quality oil than the menorah had. And there was like stage 1 of 1, stage 2 of 1, stage 3 of 1. Harishon shebarishon, the first oil from the top press, but that's the best. Hasheni shebarishon, the second oil from the first press. Harishon shebarisheni, or the first oil from the second press. Shavin, they are equal. But isn't the second press of second of the first, isn't that better than the first of the second? The Gemara says, well, yeah, the second of the first is better than the first of the second. But the Mishnah says they're equal, because sometimes you learn beferush that these are considered equal as far as preference of the shemen of the flour offerings. Even though you're right, the second one or the first one is actually a better quality. Right, now what is the makor? That the clothes that he wears in the morning need to be better than the ones in the afternoon. My kadun. What's the source that the ones in the morning should be better than the afternoon? B'shar in the morning says bad. Bad. Abba 4 times. Good quality linen. In the afternoon it says bad just once. Fine. Now, we said if the Cohen wants to spend a bit of his own money, he can. He wore kasainas but 100 money. Went into the Avodah. 20,000 money. His brothers brought him down. They didn't allow him wearing this. It sounds like it was a bit transparent. No, they're different Purushim on this. They thought it was like a blemish in the garment, right? It's made of these threads, are thick. It's as if you can see through it. They thought that it's made of these fine threads which are not doubled up, and they weren't woven well. Me'er Asa, what did he prove? What did he go out to do to show that there's no problem with the garment? Mile Isa Maim, he filled it with water. Went 7 times around the Mizbeach and no water came out. So he proved that the garment is very thick, that it can hold water. The fact that it appears that you can see through is not because there's a blemish in the garment. It's because the linen is very high quality linen. You can see through it, right? Like a glass of some kind. Okay. Okay, I think we'll stop here, Rabbi Say. Okay? I think we're all